Yeah, so welcome to evening 3 in our workshop series. And I also want to say welcome to those of you who will be watching this back. And I encourage you, if you're watching this back later, which I know there will be a number of you, do the practices. That's my suggestion. Follow along, but do what we do, and that's how you'll get the most out of it. Yeah, so our intention of the evening, as always, is to create a safe, loving container that we can explore in and, just connect as well. It's like explore and connect, be safe, take a few risks. We are in a Living Love workshop evening after all. So what helps create that safety is that we keep confidentiality. So whether you're here with me tonight or you're watching back, I'm going to ask you to agree to confidentiality. Talk about your experience, but not what anyone else shares. You just want to put your hand up for that. That would be great. So tonight we're going to be diving into the language of love. And I have really enjoyed preparing for this evening because I think it's such an incredibly important topic and it's very rich. And it addresses issues and needs that I run into a lot of the time in my work, both with couples and singles. So whether people are dating or in a relationship for 20 years, it's like the same things apply, actually. So we have one more evening left in the series, and I'm just going to just tell you a little bit about that. It's in June. Just going to share my screen and bring it up. So can you all see that there? Yep. Okay, great. Just move a few things out of the way so I can too. So this is number 4 in the series, 1st of June, and it's sacred sexuality. So we're going to be exploring a different way of sexuality and discovering more ease, bliss, and connection. Sacred sexuality recharges your life and relationships, and also it solves a lot of problems in a really beautiful way. Yeah. So I encourage you to come along to this evening and have some deep experience, some deep learning. It will meet you wherever you are. Yeah, it will, whatever the level of sexuality that you have, you'll benefit. Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit more about that at the end. And I think we have Michaela has joined us. We're into our evening now, Michaela, so welcome. Welcome. I was just showing a little screenshot of our final one in the series. I know that some of you are already booked in for that on sacred sexuality, very juicy topic. And let's all come back to here and now. So I'm going to be inviting you into some embodiment, and then I'm going to offer you a guided visualization. Yeah. So make yourself comfortable, settle in, turn off the phone, turn off anything that's going to disturb you, settle down the pets, whatever it is that you need to do. And for the people watching at home later, the same. I really encourage you to actually do this practice along with us. I will be putting some music on, and if you have any difficulty hearing my voice over the music, I'd ask you just to let me know, just to unmute yourself and let me know. I'm just going to get that music ready. Hey,
Hi.
welcome, Daniel. You're just in time now for our guided visualization on the language of love. So I've just asked people.
Great. Sorry.
So no
Sorry.
problem.
So
No problem.
okay.
Just relax into now, and we'll talk a little bit later. So make yourself comfortable. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And take a couple of deep breaths in your own time, especially if you've just jumped on the call right now. It might take you a little longer moment to settle in, just letting go of the hustle and bustle or the tech struggles. Letting your feet sit flat on the ground. Breathing down into your belly, down into your hips. I'd like you to imagine that you're in a beautiful place in nature, a place that's your sanctuary. It might be in the forest, it might be in the beach. Just take a moment to settle on what is your place. Imagine yourself sitting there in that sanctuary. Imagine. I want you to take a moment in your imagination, explore that sanctuary. And close your eyes. Great. Bit of walk around that sanctuary and really check it out. Notice what's there. Feel the air on your skin. Feeling restless, just feel restless in your sanctuary. Maybe you're running around the trees, maybe you're paddling in the water. As you walk around, I want you to notice that somewhere in your sanctuary is a door. Notice that there's a doorway. When you open that door, I want you to just gently open that door now. Inside that door is a tunnel. And it's a tunnel of blue light. I want you to walk yourself down that tunnel in that blue light. Imagine that that blue light is humming. Walk down. And as you walk down that tunnel of blue light, notice there's a door at the other end of the tunnel. And you're walking closer to that doorway. Closer. Closer. And in a moment, I will be asking you to open that door. And when you open that door, you're going to be there with someone that you love. And that someone could be a partner, could be a past partner or a future partner. But don't open the door yet. When you do, you're going to be there with that special person, past, present, or future. And when you do meet that person, I want you to imagine yourself being really able to communicate and commune and connect with that special person. When you meet them, you're going to be able to share your heart and bare your heart and your mind and your body. You're going to be able to be vulnerable to each other. You're right at that door now. You notice that there's a handle just waiting to be turned. And on the other side of that, you meet this special person that you love. And now turn that handle, step through that door, and imagine that you're in this new place with this special person. Just meet them afresh, whether it's someone you know, a current partner, a past partner, or a future partner. Just take the time to imagine yourself gazing into their eyes. And that you're gazing into each other's eyes and you're just softening together, just energetically softening together. You're going to be spending a little bit of time here with this special person. So I want you to imagine yourself sharing something with them that you have really wanted to share. And perhaps you haven't. Perhaps it's something you felt is too vulnerable, or you haven't felt safe, or you haven't had the time to share this deeply. I want you to imagine that you're really being heard, that you're hearing them, and you feel really met. Just in whatever way you can right now, imagine that happening. There's no barriers. That every moment brings you closer. Feel that you're speaking the same language, the language of love. See if you can get that feeling in your body, that like a perfect communion, perfect meeting. Could be in silence, or you might be talking, you might be touching, feeling each other, feeling every, feeling the love passing between you as you relax. And then imagine that a little difference comes up, a little conflict, something. And you just let it be there without trying to do it, anything about it, or change it. Just find a way to feel through it, back into that communion. In fact, it's just part of the whole. The more you connect, the more you feel and let go of any expectation of yourself or the other. Accept that you're different. You're two beings, and yet you're meeting in this one world. You have nothing to prove. The tension melt away. Everything is okay, even if you're not feeling great. It doesn't matter. You're able to feel that flow of love and connection. Just take a moment now to give yourself that experience of that. Whether you have to draw on a past memory, a current longing, just your imagination. Almost time to go back to your sanctuary. I want you to find a delightful way to say goodbye for now to this other person who's either your current partner, past partner, or a future partner. You're going to say goodbye now, knowing that you can connect anything. When you say goodbye, you're going to open that door back into that tunnel of blue light. Come down that tunnel feeling full and happy, and really had the best communication you've ever had. You're back in your sanctuary now. Going through that tunnel door, you're in the sanctuary. Just taking a few breaths there. And back to yourself fully, feeling yourself free. chair now, just taking a moment to reorient, to feel your hips on the chair, be aware of your breath and your body. Thoughts come and go, feelings come and go. And then just gently moving your hands and your feet, wiggling them a little. Start to come back. Bringing yourself gently into the room. Half open your eyes to start with. Just bringing yourself back. Back, fully present. Back to here. Once you're back here, I'd like you to notice, what does that feel like in your body right now? Just the experience of that. What does that feel like in your body? And what did you notice during that? What did you notice of your own experience? There's no right or wrong here at all. But what did you notice happened for you as you stepped through that blue door? So would anyone like to share with the group what you noticed, what happened for you in that? If you'd like to share, just raise your hand. Otherwise, we'll go into breakout rooms and you can share with a partner. Okay, anyone like to share in the group? Last chance. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go out into the breakout room. You'll have 3 minutes each to say hello, connect, and share your experience. Share, and also if you need to share whatever's happening for you right now, please do. But just include what happened for you when you were like being led into that kind of deep communication that really worked. Yeah. Okay. I'll see you when you come back. Hey, welcome back, everyone. If you are watching the recording, I suggest that when we do a breakout room that you pause the video and do a bit of journaling or some self-reflecting. So would anyone like to share anything about that guided meditation before we move on?
Just to say that it was a really beautiful embodied experience for me of feeling love and connection and safety. Yeah, It was quite tangible and it was really pleasant. It was really enjoyable. Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely, Tessa. Yeah. It's good to have an experience of how it can be so we can feel what that feels like, yeah, when it's working. So, the language of love, we all want to speak the language of love, right? It's like we all want to have this great communication and be able to, just have really deep and authentic and meaningful sharings with a partner or someone we're dating. And of course, this doesn't just apply to intimate and romantic relationships. But as we go through the workshop, we'll move more into that. But in the beginning, what I'm going to be talking about will apply really to communicating in general. Yeah. So we'd all love to have that, but it doesn't always happen like that, does it? It's like with all the good intentions in the world, sometimes we find ourselves fighting or you know, getting emotional, withdrawing, wondering why can't they, you know, get it, and what's wrong with them, or what's wrong with me. I mean, who's had those kind of feelings when you're relating to other people? Right. You're the only, oh, Michaela, you have too. Yeah, I think we all do, you know, and it's good to realize that. But there are some things that will really help improve. So I'm going to look at this through the lens of the 3 stages of relating. And I'll explain that as we go along, because it's really a great way of looking at the language of love and how we communicate. Yeah. So I'm going to start with the first stage. And if you haven't heard of this before, that's fine. It's just a very simple way of understanding an evolution of relating, but also something we can just go backwards and forwards from on any given day, on any given hour, in any given argument, right? So I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. So can you all see that? Yeah. Great. Thanks, Tessa. So the first stage, the me stage, is where we're focused on ourselves. So in our communication, there's going to be potentially conflict between very different viewpoints and a need to hold on to them. Yeah. Like, I'm me, I'm sitting over here in me. I know what I think. I know what I feel. I know what I need, right? It's that type of energy. There's quite often a lot of fighting that doesn't resolve. It's also the territory of blaming and criticizing the other. It's like, it's not my fault, it's your fault. So there's a fear of being wrong and really not feeling yourself. So there's a projection out, yeah, out to the other, that it's their fault. And in the first stage, in this type of energy, we're very convinced of that, yeah, very convinced. And there can be a lot of arguing in the first stage. And it's a sort of arguing that never really gets resolved. You know, it might go down, but it's like it can erupt at any moment. You know, some little thing happens and then you're back into the argument. Another aspect of what I'm calling this first stage communication is that we tend to get lost in our past patterns and we get unconsciously triggered. Yeah. So without knowing it, we're not just fighting here now, fighting fair in the moment. You know, we want to have a bit of argy-bargy and kind of, you know, hustle around a bit. It's like, what's happening is that actually we're in past trauma, we're in past patterns. You know, we might be feeling abandoned, rejected, traumatized, even abused by the other person. When these patterns are unconsciously triggered, it means that regardless of what's happening in the present moment, we are also having an experience that's not about what's happening here and now. Yeah, we're bringing like the past to it, and we don't realize that. So it can get a lot of octane. It can get very fueled. It can get aggressive. The energy can be passionate. Can also be very jealous, you know, and the sort of jealousy that doesn't get used wisely to fuel something good. It's like, you know, and it's a possessiveness. Yeah, it's like, it's control, it's possession, it's all of those things. Lots of conflict. You're really focused on yourself, what you're going to get out of this. The feeling of it is kind of like really, you know, kind of rooted in your own place. The other person almost doesn't exist in the first stage. Yeah, almost doesn't exist. So I want you just to reflect for a moment. is there any questions about that description before we go on? Is anyone not really clear the kind of energetic stance and the sort of communication I'm talking about? I think we all go there. We've all been there. Maybe just raise your hand if you can relate to this, that you've had these kind of communications. Okay, great. Thank you. So I'm going to ask you to reflect on, what do you get triggered into? Because this is one of the major things that really does disrupt great communication, is when we're not in the moment, being present with the other person, we're actually triggered into these unconscious patterns and acting from that, which can seem like completely mysterious to the other person. Right? It's like they can be like, WTF, like this makes no sense to them, right? But to us, or to you, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, so just take a moment here. If you're watching this back later, please take a moment to reflect. You tend to get triggered into. Anyone know off the top of their head and, you know, straight off and wants to talk about it, while the others? Michaela.
Yeah, I think looking back at the meditation we did before is, you know, the music, it's really put them in such a smooth state. And the imagination, which I've not really used in this particular area of my life. I just got present with sharing with Matt. Yeah, it's such a good thing to use the imagination. But what triggers me is in this first stage, I think the expectation that I should. It's about the relatedness should be already there, kind of thing. So there's an expectation that we should already relate somehow, I think. So it's an assumption, I guess, an assuming assumption.
Okay, that's interesting, isn't it? Like an expectation, this shouldn't be happening.
I think the expectation is about it should happen in a certain way, and should happen smoothly and nicely. It's probably I'm blaming the other side that doesn't happen on the other side. Like,
I didn't quite get that. You're blaming what?
Well, it's a bit like I almost thinking that it's happening here, but it's not happening on the other side. So it's a blame the other side.
Right.
Kind of.
Okay. Well, that's great to see that.
Makes sense?
Yes, it really does. It's like, there you are sitting there feeling like, you know how it should go, and it's the other person, and yeah. Oh, that's a great sharing.
Yeah, it's almost like I expect you to feel like the way I feel. It's like, I know I feel you should feel the same, kind of thing, or start to blame anyway.
That's a really great point, because I think that really, really is part of this stage. It's like, we're not really there feeling the other person really at all. We're not alive to their experience. We're just in our own world thinking they should feel a certain way. So of course the communication, and this can be both in a very small ways and big ways. Right? And it's a bit of can be almost a bit of a default pattern that we do that, because while it's good to be aware of yourself and know what you're feeling and thinking, it's like in this stage there's no room for the other person. It's almost the other person's a threat. Yeah. And if the other person would have, and this is where I think this unconscious trigger comes in, because it's like, if the other person has a different reality to me, then if that's a threat, like they can hurt me, they can leave me, they can challenge me, right? It's like, it's almost like fighting a lack of control. So if there's underlying insecurities or fears or things that we're not aware of, we'll tend towards this sort of languaging, this sort of communication. So yeah, that's a really good point, and definitely it's part of this stage. Anyone else like to share what? Yeah, thank you, Michaela. Would anyone else like to share what you know you get triggered into? Matt.
I think for me, there's a couple of different things that go on for me. Is sometimes I might get triggered into it's not okay for me to say anything, or I'll get in trouble for saying something. So that sort of feel like it's yeah, I sort of get triggered into not being allowed to speak up. Is sort of well, eventually I do, but sometimes I get triggered into that. And the other things I get triggered into is confusion and really not understanding about what's actually going on at the time. So I get confused and yeah, and yeah, that's sort of me. I think more, but mostly it's not allowed to have a voice. Triggered into not feeling like I can speak and say everything.
Thank you, Matt. And that's such a painful place, yeah, to be in.
Yeah.
And very much a childhood triggers, childhood patterns, you know, those things usually are. I shouldn't assume it is in your case, but usually it is childhood patterns. And, you know, as you're just saying, Matt, and putting that really well, you know, it's not always that you're fighting. It could be that one person is withdrawing, they're triggered into that pattern of withdrawal, which is also what we're going to call first stage here, the me stage. So rather than, you know, being able to share or communicate, you're withdrawing, feeling you don't have a voice, you know, all of those things really are they're defense mechanisms, they're protections to stay safe, basically. They just don't tend to create great communication. But that's a beautiful awareness, Matt. Thank you. Well, seeing we're having, you know, we're sharing into the group, I'm wondering, Daniel and Tessa, if you'd like to share what you notice or know that you can get triggered into, what happens for you in these situations?
I think for me, I tend to physically go into fight or flight quite easily when there's a conflict, a verbal conflict, or like when there's a conflict happening. So I notice my heart racing, my mind starts racing. I'm ready to fight. I tend to fight more than withdraw. I'm more like I go outward. I think I can, like in the past, I probably was quite prone to attacking and being quite sort of critical, blaming. I think I've learned a lot how to not do that now. I think it doesn't come out so much. Matt can speak to that if he wants, but I feel like it's not an instinct anymore. So I think I've worked on that. But yeah, there's definitely like, I want to fight. I'm ready for some, you know, and yeah, and I can talk, and that's also like, I can just talk until like the person on the receiving end just, like, I'm also learning to not do that because it can really confuse the other party. But it's like, that would be my nature, my tendency. And I heard something very interesting today about the limbic brain, like the fight or flight response, that for women, the next brain center that's activated is the language center. And then for men, the next center that's activated after the limbic is the body. So they're more likely to throw something, but we're more likely to just want to talk. So I thought that was interesting and kind of made sense.
Thank you, Tessa. Thank you. Thank you. Daniel, would you like to share?
Yeah, sure. Maybe a little bit similar to Matt. I find that I can shut myself down if I feel like I'm not that safe. If I feel like I'm not being heard or validated, yeah, I might just I might zip it. But then I notice actually other times I can actually talk more than usual, where I can, and I'll notice after a couple of minutes, I'll think, oh, geez, I haven't shut up for a minute or two, and then thinking, why did that? And normally, if I do that, it's because I don't feel comfortable. Something's not right, and I'm almost trying to create a wall of noise of my own voice, because those silences feel heavy, I think. So I think I can flip from one to the other, but probably more so just shutting down.
Thank you, Daniel. It's just beautiful sharing from all of you, and really appreciate the vulnerability in your sharings, because I know that it takes quite a bit of work to have that awareness that you have there and to be working on those things, right? And it's sometimes it's 2 steps forwards, 1 step back, 2 steps, it's like that, isn't it, in this journey of becoming aware, becoming more connected to what's underneath those reactions. Yeah, it's not about like doing positive affirmations to kind of change this. It's really about dropping down into what's deeper, which is what takes us to evolve into the second stage of communicating. Hang on 1 sec. Let me just get the next flyer up. Okay. So in the second stage, which is the we stage, we're focused on self and the other. Yeah. Still focused on ourselves, but we're also focused on the other. So in the second stage, we're developing empathy and listening skills. Learning how to listen and to be understood. So that we're not already developing a response when someone's sharing. We're not just waiting for that break, that gap to jump in with our opinion, right? What we've got to say, which when someone's doing that, you don't feel heard at all, do you? It's like you can just feel them waiting there to get their chance, if they even wait at all, right? So it's about developing the ability to listen, the ability to care, the ability to have empathy, and learning how to do that. It's a real skill. We are going to practice that in a moment, yeah. But it doesn't always come naturally. Some people it comes more naturally than others, and other people have to work at it. The second stage is also about having personal awareness of those patterns and triggers that we were just looking at. So you can notice yourself in that kind of contraction, in that state, in that pattern, and relax through it. Breathe through it, let it go. Come back to the second stage, come back to the other, come back to being present. Not always thinking that you have to be right or that you're the only one that matters, that there's room for two different viewpoints or more than two. There's room for other ways of seeing things. In second stage, you get curious, right? There's a curiosity and developing that, letting go of those defenses, those defensive kind of, you know, kind of stuff. It's like, oh, but let's have a different sort of challenge here. Let's learn and be curious and see what else is out there. And being able to hold space for the other person. I don't mean holding space as in a therapist, or that you have to spend an hour or two listening to someone if that's not serving you, or both of you, but just being able to have a spaciousness, yeah? Spaciousness, that might be a better word than holding space. Can we be spacious enough to let the other person emerge in our presence? You know, I mean, what a gift that is, to be able to offer that. To be not just focused on our own needs, but to be aware of the other person's needs. And this applies to all sorts of situations, right? Because not just intimate relationship, not just romantic relationship, but really any sort of relationship, the second stage is very, very useful to have. And it's a growth on first stage. Yeah, we're growing through that. It can also be quite neutralizing, as in it you know, there's not necessarily a kind of passionate energy in second stage. It's more of a luminous energy. It's more a spacious holding with love. It's very, very beautiful when you're really in that stage and really open to each other. And getting to second stage requires doing some work, unless you're just naturally there. You know, there's those blocks that come in, those defensiveness, those protections, the lack of vulnerability of the first stage. So it requires, for most people, a level of personal growth, therapy, awareness, meditation, to see oneself and to be able to not just act out of that sort of ego. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with ego, but unconscious ego can get in the way. It really can. So it takes some work to do second stage. That's where the work starts to come in. And I know everyone here and those of you who are listening are doing that work and have been doing that work for some time. So I want to really honor and celebrate you for doing that. I mean, when we talk about world peace, you know, it's like this is necessary. This is what we need, right? Because a lot of the wars and all these things were going on, it's often very much a first stage communication of like territorial ambition, conflict, the other, me and you and us. You know, it's race, it's ethnicity, it's territory, it's all of that. In second stage, we can listen. We can listen and allow the other to be. So there's a wonderful method that we can use. I'm just going to stop sharing that screen now for a moment. Yeah. So there's a wonderful technique that we can use, which I can't remember exactly where I learned this now, but I learned it quite some years ago. It could have been from the Hendricks, but there's various things like this, you know, out there, and I've kind of put my slant on it a bit anyway. But it's a way of really knowing that you're hearing and being heard, right? So I wanted to do a little demonstration of that. So if anyone would like to volunteer to do this demonstration with me, just put up your hand or unmute yourself and jump in. It'll be nice. It'll be good. Michaela, thank you. So how this is going to work, Michaela, is I want you to just tell me something, you know, about something that you want to communicate, maybe something about what you're feeling and thinking. And I'm going to feed that back to you. And I'm going to check in that I've got it exactly right until you feel really fully heard. Yeah. So when you're sharing, with the length of your sharing, I'd suggest to break it up a little, because I can only kind of take in and feedback so much. So if it gets too much, I'll just do a little pause for a moment. Yeah. So Michele, what would you like to share?
I would like to share. In the second stage, that it looks so easy to be with another person, and it feels good when there's a peace.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Michele, what I heard you saying is that in that second stage, you're noticing or you're feeling that it looks so easy to be with that other person and to have peace. Now, if that's not exactly the meaning that you wanted to convey, I'd like you to just correct me. I'd like you to just adjust a little, right? If I didn't get it 100%.
Yeah, it's a bit like almost like it's kind of a fantasy. It comes from not a fantasy, but it's a bit like would be nice to be with a person and feel that person and knowing there's a peace regardless, and not, it's like would be nice to be like that or to have that.
Okay, so you're saying that it feels like a fantasy, but it would be really nice to have that peace with someone, to have that communication.
Yeah.
So do you feel that I've fully got what it is you want to say? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Michele. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there, so you're going to have a chance to practice that together. And if you are, if you're watching this at home during the practice, I'd suggest just, take a couple of little notes when we go into the breakout room, and be prepared to practice this in your life. So yeah, is there any questions about what I was just doing then? You're now, yeah.
Or after you, like, say I'm the listener, after I finish saying this is what I think I heard you say, do I ask them, is that right? Is that what you do? Is that right? Yeah. And then they feed it back.
Yeah. And when you get it right, I suggest say thank you, so they know. Yeah. So Michele, how was that to do that practice and to have me ask and really want to get what you were trying to convey? What was that like for you, that experience?
It's acknowledging each other feelings. We are getting each other communication. We are not thinking the same, but we are on the same line, same chapter, kind of
So you felt that when we just did that practice?
Yeah. It's like we don't agree to anything specifically, but we are in communication about something, whatever, It's like,
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up, because quite often why people don't want to listen is they think that it says they agree, right? I can't really listen because it means I'm agreeing with you. It doesn't mean you're agreeing at all. It just means you're hearing it. It
yeah,
only
that's right.
means you're hearing it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no agreement, but yeah, it's really acknowledging that, you know, you listen to me. Yeah,
That's
you've been listening.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to have another breakout room, and so I'd like you to practice that together. Yeah. So you'll have 3 minutes each to be the one sharing and the one feeding back. Yeah. And then you swap over and then you do it the other way around. Okay. Is everyone clear what you're going to do? So decide who's going first. You share something that you'd like to feel heard. The other person will practice to really hear you. And then you swap over and just take note of what's really going on for you in that, whichever one you're in, just to stay present to that experience. Yeah. And we'll talk about it when you come back. Hey, hi, Jeannie Marie. Hi. Hi, welcome. That's quite good timing, actually. Look, we just went into a breakout room. So what I'll do is I'll just refresh you on what we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah. So you'll be able to catch up. So we did a guided meditation, which would take too long to take you through that. And if you want to do that, I'll be able to share the recording with you.
Okay.
I'm just actually going to pause the recording now for our recording. Yeah, so would anyone like to share? How did you go on that practice? Anyone who hasn't shared would like to, or Kelly, you would like to share? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a shareaholic.
Lucky.
Can be lucky thing, or can I just with Daniel just the last bit of our exercise practice. Yeah, I think there's a bit like what I was a bit like sometimes, you know, the doubt of what to say or not what to say, because we're talking about, you know, freedom to communicate, and how does that land to the other side? You don't know. But it can create an anxiety in trying to say things in a certain way, which might land on the other side in good way.
Well, Michaela, look, this is a practice, right?
Yeah.
So you're not going to spend your whole relationship or relating practicing this method. Right? That could get a little artificial, right? But we're learning how to have a language of love, and this is a very fundamental building block. If you don't have this building block in place of this ability to listen and be empathetic and be curious, then going on to the next stage, which is the masculine feminine, that we're, you know, the intimacy and the polarity and the gifts of love that we're going to go to next. Without this, you don't have the trust.
Mm.
builds the trust. Second stage, Matt, please share. Thank you, Michaela. Thank you.
Yeah, so it just felt for me, it felt really warm and tender from both sides. The whole energy, that's what it felt in the sharing and the receiving.
Would that be something you'd like to have more of in your relationship?
Yeah, I feel like it is. I feel it helps slow things down a bit instead of racing off. Yeah, it helps slow things down when things need to be really heard at a certain point or a certain time.
Yeah, and it takes a certain amount of ability to do that practice, because if you're charged up, you know, it's hard to slow it down and stop and really listen and feed back and do all that, right? So it's a practice. So I would suggest practice that when you're not charged up, everyone, you know, like the other person doesn't even need to know you're doing it. Like if you're here or you're with a couple or you've got a friend at home you want to do it with, great. You can just do that yourself. The other person doesn't even need to know that you're doing it, really. But it's like, do it when there's not a lot of emotion, when there's not a lot of charge, so that when you are more triggered or you have got more charge, it's much easier. You know, it's like I say a lot of the time, practice living love, practice being present when you're not distressed, when you're not charged up, because then you build that muscle, right? You build that muscle. Jeannie Marie, you've got your hand up there.
It's interesting you say like to be practicing these sorts of things. In my software development, my developers are from Belarus. And so I'm doing this a lot in conversations with them because I want to ensure that they've understood what I've been asking and that what they're saying back to me, I've understood. So I'm going through this. I didn't realize, I guess, the practice of what I was doing, but I have been doing exactly this a lot. And it takes a little bit longer, but you realize that you either really do understand or you don't, and then you need to address that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, imagine if we all did this more in work as well. You know, just really making sure that we're heard and taking the time to really hear the other person. Tessa, did you want to share as well? I think you had unmuted yourself.
Oh yeah. A couple of things. Like I noticed that I had to curb a desire to sort of elaborate, like instead of just feeding back exactly what Matt had said, I wanted to add my little bit about what I think that meant or what I think he might have, so that was interesting just to observe that. And that, it is a practice that you've got to stay quite almost vigilant to, that you don't, for me, that I would have to in the start, not wander off into imagination or, but the other thing was like, and if I want to bring this more into Matt and I's communication, like how would you suggest that? Because like it would be weird to go, oh, can we just do a bit more of this? Like let's feed back to each other. I don't know, maybe it's okay, but be nice to be a bit more subtle.
So what you're saying is that you'd like to do it, but you feel like it could be a bit weird and you'd like it to be more subtle. Am I right?
Like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I would like us both to do it. Like I'd like it. I don't know.
I think it's fine to just make a suggestion. Like, as I said, just after this call, after having a bit more awareness on it, just take the time to, let's say, hey, let's practice that really hearing the other and feeding it back practice. Just build up a little bit of skill with it. And then next time that you notice that you know, you're getting frustrated because you're not really hearing each other and it's not feeling good, then that could be a suggestion from either of you. Say, hey, would you like to, we just sit down and really practice that to make sure we're really hearing each other? Yeah. Because often when we're not hearing each other, we're afraid, you know, we're in fear, or we're in some kind of control mechanism, which is usually fear anyway. Like there's reasons, or we think that if we listen, the other will be weakened by that. So it's actually a very powerful practice to put that aside and just hear and listen. It can resolve the most long-standing and deeply frustrating conflicts that people have and that couples have in particular. It's an amazing practice to do when you need it. I can highly recommend it. I've used it many, many times myself. So shall we move on? Okay, so the wonderful thing about that, what we're calling second stage, is that it's more empathetic, it's connected, it's harmonious, it's peaceful. It doesn't tend to have a lot of passion in it, right? Like Matt described it as like a softer, slower kind of spaciousness. It's beautiful. But unlike the first stage, it's lacking that kind of passionate fire. So in the third stage, we want to, you know, basically build on both first and second stage. We want to take the passion out of the first stage and the skill out of the second stage. So I'm just going to share my screen with you again. Okay, third stage. So what I'm calling the us stage, where we're focused on spirit and love. So the third stage can build on the first and the second stage. So we don't have to neglect that passion of first stage. In fact, why a lot of people like first stage is because it's passionate. You have this fiery arguments, you have lots of make-up sex, you know, it's like, you know, you're alive, it's like juicy. It's also can be really aggressive and horrible, but it's not all horrible, right? It's like, it's also got fire. So take the passion, take the fire, but be skillful with it. That's third stage. It's like, you know, the studies have shown, for example, that couples that fight stay together longer than couples that don't, but they fight fair. Yeah. They don't bring in the past. They don't criticize each other. They argue, they fight, they have conflict, but it's fair and it resolves because they're not using it to demolish the other. Yeah, it's just a kind of natural fullness of two people coming together. Is there's going to be some conflict, there's going to be some fights. Well, great, let's enjoy them. And so, you know, we're taking that energy of the first stage, but being skillful so that you're attuned to, is this creating more love or is it the opposite? You know, are we getting closer through this fight? Is there a glint in the eye? Is there, like, you know, a good glint? Is there, like, looking at the other person with some enjoyment of their passion? It's all of that type of skill. It's also in intimate relationship. We're looking at the language of love and the communication being between masculine and feminine modes. So we're looking at that desire for trust and the desire for love, that the masculine wants to communicate trustability and she wants to communicate love. And in this third stage, you're each offering your gifts of communication. So not everyone's communication is verbal. You know, that communication can be in a touch, a gift, a song, a sigh, you know, humor. It's like a dance. It's not that we have to be talking all the time. In fact, too much talking tends to put you in second stage, and it tends to kind of drag the energy down. I don't know if anyone's noticed that like a lot of talking the energy can start to go down. So in third stage, you're alert to that. You're sensing when the talking is bringing the energy down. You bring something else in, right? And just a reminder, that the modes of masculine and feminine communication are like vastly different. Like, because he's solution focused, he's direct, he's all about clarity and doing and action, whereas she's the ocean of love and expression, and she doesn't want to fix anything. She just wants to share it and be in communion and communication. And it's like having that eye contact and that juicy exchange. And, she just wants to love and be loved. So, but yet what often happens and goes wrong in that communication of masculine and feminine is, like, in first stage, those differences are just really misunderstood. In second stage, the differences are all getting smoothed out, right? But in third stage, there's that awareness that she feels, but she doesn't need to be fixed. And that's where the masculine can get caught up, is that he thinks that she needs to be fixed. Her feelings are bad or wrong, and he wants to get in there and help resolve them, find a solution and get back to normal. Get back to nothing. It's like, that's the masculine joy, right? Let's just get back to that harmonious, peaceful, nothing place, right? And it's like, for her, it's like she's like the weather. And when I say masculine, feminine, I don't necessarily mean man and woman. It just really depends which mode you're in, right? So it's like, so if he wants to fix and resolve, she wants love and attention. But he also doesn't want her to try and fix him. He wants her to trust that he will sort it out. Yeah. So often the feminine can come in and, she's trying to make it better for him. Not like in the masculine way, but more like, make him feel better and help him kind of like sort out the issues. And it's like, for the masculine, that can be incredibly frustrating. And then he stops wanting to share because she's going to come in and kind of be mum, right? What he needs is that she trusts him. She trusts him to work it out. And that's what she communicates. But also, like, if he wants her wisdom, he can ask for that. It doesn't mean she's not offering her wisdom. But the best polarity is when he asks for that wisdom, and he honors it and values it, and then goes and makes his own decision. Yeah. So when that alignment of that third stage communication, that language of love is happening, I mean, it's got the fire of first stage, it's got the skillful empathy of second stage, but it's got all the creative, juicy, sexy play of the third stage. It's flirting, it's humor, it's teasing, it's deep connection of love and trust. He holds that container for her within which she feels, and she feels more, and she feels seen in that feeling state and valued in that. And that's when that language of love is really happening. So part of that is getting to know each other. Even when you start out on a first date, it's like you're starting to sense the other person and their mode, what mode they're in, how they respond, how they respond to you. You look, and as you get to know someone, you get better at that. Just know them better. You know what they need more. You know what opens them, what strengthens them, and you can use more and more of that. But also it takes some trust to offer your gifts of communication, and trust that they will be received, they will be valued. And if they're not received, that you don't devalue them yourself. You know who you are, you know what you have to offer. It doesn't mean someone will always be open to it or always be able to receive it. So I'm sure you've all had an experience of third stage: alignment, flow, passion, polarity, communication, maybe some moments of it here and there, maybe more than moments, But just raise your hand if you've had that experience. You know what this is. You just, even if you've just glimpsed it. Yeah, you have, Jeannie Marie. You have. Okay. You have. It's you know, it can just be that kind of, you know, just that feeling of, like, say, if you're the feminine, that you're just opening, that flower's just opening a little, you know, just in that basking, in that attention, in that sense of being seen or being held by the masculine. Now, I mean, all in the third stage, because it's the us, it isn't always masculine and feminine mode, right? It can be feminine with feminine, can be masculine with masculine. But you know, if we're talking polarity, we're talking masculine and feminine coming together. But it's when the focus is on something bigger than both of you, on spirit, on love, on freedom, purpose, truth. You know, all of these things are enlivening, they're creative, they're magical. So I think this would be a good time to, you know, just open up for some sharing, some Q&A. You know, are there any questions about this third stage, the us stage? How to get there, how to have more of that, what's actually happening in that? So just raise your hand if there's a question or you'd like to share. Jeannie Marie, we'll go to you first. Michaela, I've got you there.
I'm wondering if you could suggest what ways you can foster or practice more of that third stage when you're not in a relationship or not in an intimate relationship.
I think there's so many ways you can do that, yeah, because in that third stage communication, you're looking for, you know, just like what's the most skillful means that you can bring to the encounter. So even say if you're with your women friends, it might be appreciating someone who needs it. It might be like lightening the conversation or just putting on some music, or, you know, just having that sense of giving your gift. Yeah, that would be one way of doing it. Expressing gratitude, expressing trust in the masculine. When the masculine shows up with trust, then you name that, you express that, like you make a deliberate practice of wherever you find that trust, you honor it, you appreciate it, and then that brings more of that. Yeah. I mean, that's really the work for everyone, whether you're in a relationship or not, because it's the us stage. It's doing that wherever we can, whether it's with children or partner, family, work. You know, it's a little bit harder at work, but yet, you know, it's those kind of, like when you're describing what you're doing with the people from Belarus, it's like, you know, you're already starting to create a platform of trust and openness, because they can feel that you want to know, you know, what they want and what they need. So that's all heading in the right direction.
Thank you. That's really useful.
Great, thank you. Michaela, did you have a question, Michaela?
Yeah, I was. This is something, you know, and it's not like it's a love intimacy thing that, you know, a relationship with my daughter. In the past, I used to almost like in order to be loved by her, I used to almost like, you know, be like, as you said before, feminine kind of thing, like, you know, be the love so much so that I can talk a lot and trying to almost like, be this friend, too much of a friend kind of thing that I'm, and I'm just wondering, it's almost like trying to please or trying to create something so good that the end is not really, can be like, I'm not say forceful, but it's a bit like not really, I don't know what I'm saying, but it's like, it's almost like trying to make it.
I think what you're describing there is a first stage communication, actually being run by a kind of a pattern there. Yeah. That's what's happening there, even with, the good intentions, the love. It's like there's an unconscious pattern running it.
Yeah.
And it's like, in like to go into to evolve that, part of it is often, if it's appropriate, you can share, be vulnerable in that. Like, it's like that beautiful vulnerability that's in the third stage, which is a very vulnerable place to be. I mean, so is the second stage as well, but it's like taking the risk of sharing, like, oh, look what I'm doing. Oh my God, look what I'm getting up to, like I'm like trying to get your approval, and maybe having a bit of humor about it and lightening it up and making a little bit of fun of yourself. And, it's like not taking it all too seriously. And I think that could be very liberating for your daughter, for her to see how important that is to you, and for you to acknowledge that and share that, and that vulnerability and that honesty is what creates that beautiful language of love. Like the language of love is so vulnerable, it's so undefended, so risky. And of course, my disclaimer always, if there's anything that's unsafe, really unsafe, or physically unsafe, or emotionally unsafe, you just get the hell out of there. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, where you can keep yourself safe, but it is a risk. It is a risk to do third stage. If you cannot do it and you want to just stay, if you cannot do it, well, good luck. I mean, there's some advantages to that, but I'd imagine that everyone here would not be able to not do or want to do third stage, because it's not easy. It just gets easier. But it's not easy, because you're going to run up against your deepest patterning of identity and holding on to that. So we need kindness. Daniel, did you want to share or have a question? I just wanted to give you an opportunity to share too. Did you have a question there?
I think I'm good for the moment. Thanks, Cynthia.
How are you doing? How are you going?
Yeah, I'm well, thanks. Yeah, doing well. Sorry, just taking it all in. I actually had, my question was similar to, well, questions were similar to other people. So yeah, I got a lot out of that. So yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Daniel. Just good to hear your voice, and just checking in there for a moment. Tessa, you have a question?
Yeah, just about trust. Like, so a big theme that's come out of tonight for me is that the masculine wants to be trusted and needs to feel trusted, to feel heard or seen and understood. And I wondered if you could just share some advice about ways that a woman can show that she trusts. him?
Well, it's like we're assuming that he is trustable, right? Like we're not talking about, I just want to have this little clarification for anyone who might need to hear that. It's like there's always going to be things that are untrustable and things that are trustable. Just like in the feminine, there's things that are loving and things that are unloving, right? So I'm talking about a man, in your case, Tessa, we're talking about, right? Where you feel there's predominantly trustability.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what sort of undermines that, to start with that, is where you're kind of trying to fix him or do it for him. So that just sends the message, you know, that he's not trustable. You don't trust him to work it out for himself, right? That doesn't mean you can't have heaps of feedback or you know, it's not like you're just been sitting there like, you know, Stepford wife or something, being completely silent. But it's about giving that trust to him and giving him feedback if that's not working for you. So you could say that, you know, you can say, and I'm going to come to Matt for a minute and ask him what gives that to him, right? But you can say what you trust, or say, wow, that's so trustable. I feel so relaxed. I feel so safe with you. Or you just sigh, you just let your body fall into his, like you relax your body into your man. He's sure as hell going to feel and know that you're trusting him. Am I right, guys? If she falls into you, do you know that she trusts you to surrender? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, let's Matt, would you have something to contribute here? Like, what are the ways in which your partner, a feminine partner, can show that she trusts you?
Yeah, just to show her appreciation for what I've suggested or what direction I've taken us in or led, or yeah, it could just be just sort of coming up and giving me a big hug or something like that, or a kiss, or telling me that she loves me, or yeah, I really love that idea and let's do it, type thing. Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah, and I really, yeah, and the definitely the I really trust you. She says that I really trust that you've got this, or I trust that you really you've got it. That really feels good for me. Yeah. Yeah, there's something else there, but I can't think of it right now.
We'll come back if when you remember there. Daniel, what about you? How can a partner show their trust to you?
Maybe if I'm feeling a little bit vulnerable about something, and they just reassure me and say, "Oh, look, that's okay," or you know, I appreciate that. I appreciate that you're feeling that way, or I appreciate it that you did something or made an effort. Yeah, I really like that, and makes me feel feel connected to the other person. Yeah.
It makes you feel connected to the other person. That's beautiful. That's what it does, doesn't it? It's not about like propping somebody up or anything like that. It's about connection.
Yeah. yeah, and feeling like I can trust them, because if I'm feeling a little bit vulnerable, or if I'm questioning myself about something, and in that moment that's okay in their eyes, then I can kind of drop in a little bit to, I think, into the other person, into myself, and yeah, just feel deeper sense of connection. Yeah.
I love that, Daniel. It's like, that those moments of vulnerability when we feel, met in that, heard in that, not judged in that, just allowed to be that. It's like, then it really does increase the love and the connection and the strength. It's like, that's a great thing to bring out. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, because I think quite often other people's vulnerability can be scary to us sometimes. So we want to push it away, or, we don't really know what that means. So we don't really want to let them have that. Yeah. And then in doing that, that's very disruptive of the connection. It doesn't lead to those beautiful, deep, soulful, loving, juicy moments. Because then the other person will retreat, withdraw, put up a facade, like act as if, all those things, and the connection's actually gone. And then there's no real desire to come back together. Matt, did you think of it?
Yeah. The other thing is, if I've got something going on in life that I really need to get through, or it's quite big for me at that time, just or there's some stuff happening and that I'm going through emotionally, is just if a woman would say something like, you know what to do, you know, I'm here to talk about it whenever you're ready, but you know what to do. I know you do. You've done it before. I've seen it many times. That type of thing. And then that will I would feel supported and trusted and loved, and knowing that I feel like she's treating me like I'm a man, that I can deal with my own shit without being counseled or inquired into about whatever it is that I need to work through, unless I ask. Yeah.
Taking notes there, Tessa.
Yeah. And that feels really empowering for me, because then I'm fuck you, I'm going to go and work through this now, and I'll come back and I've got it, and then I'll tell her all about it once I've got the answers and I'm there. Yeah.
Awesome. And it's just like, as you're all sharing, it's reminding me that really the trust is in spirit, is in something bigger than all of us. It's in the love that this is the stuff of the universe. Like when we're in third stage, it doesn't mean everything's going great. In fact, it might not be going great at all. And there's a lot of things in our world at this time that are definitely challenging, right? That we're in the midst of. We can still be in third stage because we can trust life itself. We can trust someone's good intentions, even if they're fucking up, basically. Yeah. If we feel into that, they might not be, doing what we want or saying the right thing. But what I often do is I'll just kind of go, well, do I sense that there's a good intention there? Yeah, and can I choose to focus on that rather than what's, like irritating or whatever? It's not in denial of that, but it's like in that third stage, we're more interested in what's the good intention rather than, what's the immediate froth and bubble. We're willing to go deeper than that. And it's so beautiful to receive that, like when someone else just really trusts you and your intentions and life itself, and love itself. I mean, it's just beautiful to be on the receiving end of that as well. So we just got time for one last question. Jean Marie, you've got your virtual hand up there.
As you were talking there, and particularly talking about trust, something came to me, and that's that we've been talking about the stages as if they're linear. You move from 1 to 2 to 3. But my reflection was that in life, sometimes you get to 3 and you've built up a wonderful trust and a wonderful connection, and something happens to drag you back to 1, and the trust is broken and the connection is lost. What can you do then to bring it back to 3?
Look, I think it's often like that. I mean, because you joined in late, you missed that bit, but it can be 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or, you know, it's an evolution, but yet within an hour or 10 minutes or less, you can go from 1 to 3 and back to 1 again, depending on kind of what gets triggered, right? So it's like a muscle. That's why we practice. That's why we do workshops, why we do sessions, why we do meditate, why we move our bodies, why we do these things, is to build up that capacity to locate love, to locate awareness and presence, and come back to that. Breathing is a great start, like stopping and breathing and having a gap. Have a pause. It's okay to have a pause. And just in that pause, you can rearrange yourself a little bit. Yeah. It's like, do I like the way I'm behaving right now? Is this actually what I want to be doing in my life? How would I feel if this was displayed on a great big screen in the middle of Centennial Park or something, right? It's like, do I like this version of myself? Or actually, no. All right. So what else could I do? It's like, and seeing what other choices you've got. And, you know, if you stuff up, just be hugely, create heaven on earth. If you've made it hell for someone, create heaven on earth. Just go around there with the goodies, the flowers, the whatever, you know. It's like, make it up. Really, it works. If you've slipped into really full-on first stage, make a very big gesture.
I was actually thinking more if someone else has, because I know at times when I've really kind of developed into that, really trusting someone, and the trust is broken, I find it challenging to trust them again.
I think again it would come down to, and that's natural, isn't it? But it's like, I would rather be someone who trusts than someone who doesn't trust. Yeah. However, you need discernment. If someone, you know, breaks the trust because they forget to, you know, bring the sourdough bread back when they said they would, well, you know, you can let go of that one. Right? If someone is, you know, cheating on you with your best friend, then that's going to require a lot more repair, right? Can be repaired. It can be. You can regain trust, but we're talking a lot of time and a lot of work. Yeah. So it's like discernment. If someone is breaking your trust continuously, then I would be looking at, is this the right person for me to really be giving my love to? It's got to be about there's got to be an equality in there, really. I mean, in terms of intimate relationship, it can't be just one person all the time, right? It can be just one person all the time in other circumstances. There are people who are just, you know, working with criminals, working with people who are very traumatized, you know, that they're just doing third stage, right? But in an intimate relationship, there needs to be safety. If someone's continually breaking your trust, you won't have that. But again, look for their intentions. Be kind, be compassionate, be challenging as well. Like Matt was saying before, it's like the more trust you give, the more it will grow. So find any little thing that's trustable, like, oh, they're telling me about this. That's trustable, even if I hate that they're telling me. They're actually telling me, right? That's trustable. So it's like, look for what is trustable, name that, and then build on that. And, you know, we're imperfect humans in an imperfect world, struggling and stumbling towards love. So we need to have compassion and not be pressuring ourselves to be more evolved or more in this next stage. These are awareness tools so that you can feel where you are and as best you can adjust to create that language of love, to be able to communicate with the other. This is what this evening is focusing on. Yeah. Okay, so I hope there's been some helpful things this evening to take away and use and reflect on. I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed the sharing and being with you all. And I'm also thinking and feeling about those of you who will be looking this back that weren't able to be with us tonight. So yeah, just imagine what you would be sharing if you're not here with us. And I'm definitely feeling you and sending you love right now as well. So we have one more evening left in the series, and that is, which I shared with at the beginning of the call for those of you who are here, and that's on sacred sexuality. So I'm going to put the link to that in the chat. So if you want to see that in the chat box, that's a rather long link, but that's the one they gave me. So if you, and for those of you who have attended tonight, you are also offered the special offer to come. I know some of you are already booked in for the next one, but I'm also offering you the special offer of the promo code LOVE, which gives you a 50% discount. Special offer. Come and join in again. And yeah, that's going to be another beautiful evening, and I'm excited about that topic as well. What else can I tell you just before we go? Okay, so the live workshop in May is coming up. I know there is at least one person here who's joining me at that workshop. The beautiful flyer, which you can all see. Attraction, Intimacy and Love Weekend Workshop in person, May 21 and 22 in Byron Bay. So everyone's ready to come out and play. The workshop is almost full at this point. We've just finished early bird and we really have space only for a very few people now. So that's exciting. And so I know that not all of you can come. I wish you could. I would love to have all of you here. If you can rearrange things and come, it's going to be a great experience. So if you want to talk to me at all about any issues or things you might have to rearrange or ways I could help you be there, please feel free to reach out and we'll see what we can work out. There's nothing like being live and in person. I know most of you have done, who's done a live weekend, who's here? Jean Marie, Matt, Daniel. Okay, and so Tessa, Michaela. Byron Bay is calling you. Anyway, we'll leave it there for this evening. If you'd like to unmute yourselves and come onto the call. Thank you, Jeannie Marie, for your message in the chat. I appreciate that. Is there anything anyone would like to share just to complete our call tonight? Any language of love that anyone would like to speak? Let's finish with that. Let's have some language of love sharing is to offer something that speaks of love, creates love, or is just a loving statement.
I have loved this call.
There we go.
Thank you.
I'd like to say something toward you, Cynthia, and that's that I really appreciate the kindness and care and attention that you give to each person in these sessions or individual sessions. It's so evident that you really care about the work that you're doing and that you really believe in it, and that you are able to guide and help people in their evolution. So I'm grateful for you.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you, Jeannie Marie. I really let that in. Thank you very much. Very sweet.
Yeah, I'll say something too. Yeah, thanks, Cynthia. Yeah, you bring something that you bring the spiritual. Yeah, it's like allowing us to connect. What's already there. Love is always there. It's always here, and. But it's great. It's great to have someone like you to join the dots, something like that. It's like, there are all these dots, love is there, and, join them. So thank you. Thank you, everyone, for sharing, for participating.
Thank you, Mikhail. I've got a picture of those drawings we used to do when we were kids, and you join the dots and then the shape would emerge when we joined the dots. So thank you for that image. And I wasn't necessarily thinking you had to all express love towards me, but it's very nice that you are. you did include the others. So it doesn't have to just be about me.
Yeah.
But thank you.
It's been a really, there's been a lot of fruit in this evening. I've really enjoyed everyone sharing and the energies that everyone's brought, and I don't know, there's just the warmth and support that everyone has on this call. And I really appreciate that. Yeah, and openness to listen to others. Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. It really is a wonderful group, isn't it? Like the sharing here, the feeling here from everyone here. It's special. Yeah.
Yeah, it's felt really good after, time away from this group and this container to come back in. It feels really, really, really good. And I've taken away a few real gems from tonight in terms of teachings and just like penny drop moments as well. And also just really enjoyed hearing people sharing deeply and vulnerably. It's been beautiful.
Thank you, Tessa.
It's almost been like a mini reunion. I mean, not that. Anyway, just speaking from last year, yes, it's good just to see some of the old faces and and reconnect. Yeah, it's been nice. And as well, just feeling like with Michelle that creating a bit more. Getting to know you a little bit more as well. So just getting a little bit more connection there too is nice.
I invite you all to go out and explore the language of love in your lives. And we'll send our love to the people who weren't able to join us tonight as well. And
Yeah.
lots of love, everybody.
Love, Cynthia. Lots of love, everyone.
Lots of love. Bye.
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 Bye.